Okay, we love watching the sausage being made with the bills during the legislative session, but sometimes the most interesting stuff happens after the session ends, right?
Well, it's a lot of work. The governor will review there were 535 bills passed this year. There are 503 that require action by the governor. He has until midnight on March 28th, 20 days after the session, to take action. He can sign it. He can let it go into law without his signature. He can veto it.
Mike shouldn't even be here right now.
Shouldn't you be reading bills?
We should be reading bills. I want to give you an example. Most of the bills are passed unanimously. This is what we had yesterday from Ron Gordon, our general counsel. All of these bills passed unanimously, but the governor reviews each and every one of them, spends up to 10 minutes on these are the non-controversial bills. We will spend hours around a desk, and then if there are principals who've asked and want to come in, the governor will try to listen to as many of those as possible.
Yes.
If they want a bill vetoed or some other action to take place, governor will visit with them, staff will visit with them. The session work for us, it marks an end at the end of the 45 days, but the next 20 days are every bit as busy for the governor and his staff.
Are you working it, Representative?
You know, it depends on the bill. No, generally not. I think that once the representatives and the senators leave, they're tired and they say, we're done. But on bills that they think that there's they either really love and they're worried that people may be lobbying against, or that they really hate and they want to do their own lobbying against, they'll work those bills. And one of the things I think that we look at carefully in terms of whether there is a possibility of getting the governor to veto something is how big was the margin? Because the governor's going to take into account, I can't believe Mike wouldn't acknowledge this, maybe he won't, but the governor, I think, will take into account in terms of how seriously he'll consider vetoing, or rather, vetoing a bill, whether he's going to be overridden. And if you have a vote go through the House and the Senate that's close to unanimous or, really lopsided, even if he hates the bill or he has people that hate it, I think that there is some hesitation, or maybe some hesitation in his mind about vetoing it that's much greater than when you have a closely contested, controversial bill that he thinks he can have his veto stick on.
And I know before the vote even takes place, representatives and senators hear from their constituents and take that into account more than people think.
Yeah, we do.
Is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely.
I know people will say, but I'm just one little person. Why would they? You take that into account, letters and emails and phone calls.
Especially our own constituents.
If they live in the district.
Yes.
And then afterwards, I think people, contacting the governor with their heartfelt feelings, those kinds of contacts are taken into account more than people think.
Yeah. The governor takes it very seriously when people call in, when people text in. Again, we try to get as much input from as many people as possible on controversial issues and others. And then we'll have a period where we'll do a lot of bill signings publicly to remind the public, here's the legislation that was passed, here's how it's going to impact your life.
Well, that's an interesting point, because many people think when the session ends, that's where it stops. Because during the session, all the lobbyists or all the people on the Hill working you, Representative, right? All the people are kind of
coming our way.
Coming to the
governor.
And it does have an
Lieutenant
impact, you
way.
would say.
Well, the governor cares what people think. It isn't, it isn't a poll on whoever calls in or gets the most calls in. But as governor, he cares what his constituents think, and lieutenant governor and he are traveling around the state getting input from people. But we care what people think. At the end of the day, the governor is very good to say. We were reviewing a bill a while ago. It had been introduced by a legislator who's kind of, interesting. And the governor, someone jokingly said,
euphemism. Interesting.
And the governor said, which he should say, and he always says, I don't care who the sponsor was. Is this good policy or is this not good policy? If it's good policy, I'll sign it. If it's a bad policy, I'll veto it. And he's open. Quick story. Last year, he vetoed one bill. Ironically, it was a bill that I had suggested, and that was, I oversee boards and commissions. We have 400 boards and commissions. 24 of them still required a partisan breakdown. And some of them were not controversial, like the Livestock Marketing Board. Others, like the Public Service Commission, were. Governor listened to the Democrats and said, let's pull out these controversial ones. I don't want to ever look like we're rolling anybody. Governor approved that. It got to the Senate. That didn't happen. It came back. He vetoed it. It was something that our office had proposed, and had the changes been agreed to, he wouldn't have vetoed it. But at the end of the day, he was willing to veto something that his own staff had come up with. Why? Because it was the best policy for the state. And that's how he tries to look at each and every one of these bills that'll be before him. What's the best policy for the state of Utah?
Jason, I'd rather have a Democrat as a governor, but if I'm going to have a Republican governor, Gary Herbert's a pretty good governor.
Well, that's a very nice way to end this particular segment. Thank you for your insights.